Welcome to Middle Fingers Up, the show where we hold our heads high and our middle fingers higher. I'm your host, Kieran McKay. Today marks a special moment for me as I have the privilege of sitting down for a conversation with the very first role model who shaped my understanding of relationships that encompass every stage from my girlhood through my young womanhood to my womanhood. And in all those hoods, the dynamics with a man. So it's truly an honor to welcome my first relationship with a man ever, my Papa Varinder Singh Randhawa, to the podcast. Welcome, Father. Do you know that when you think of that as daughters, that your daughter's first relationship is with, like, their first relationship with a man is with their dad?
Thank you so much, Kiran, for this wonderful introduction. And before we start, I just want to congratulate you on this wonderful journey that you have done an awesome job, and I'm so glad to see you grown up as a beautiful girl, woman, and all the things you're doing for our community. And I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thanks, Father. That's very nice. Or as I usually call you, Varinder, right? I call you by your name usually. Thank you.
Yes.
Does that bother you when I call you by Varinder?
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love this, because I know where you're coming from.
Ever since I was a kid, right? I used to call you Varinder.
Yes.
We always Varinder.
I love it.
And now my kids do that to me. Terrence will always be like either mother or, okay, Kieran Deep. That's what he'll say to me always. But I was saying in my introduction, do you know that? Do you know that a woman's first relationship with a man is through their father?
You know what? Like, from your episodes, I learned a lot of stuff, and this is something else I learned today. Like, when you mentioned that, yes, it makes sense. Yes,
right. And so maybe we'll in a little bit talk about that, because for for a lot of women in our community, many would say they didn't have a relationship with their dad, or it wasn't a good one, or lots of other complicating things. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's start a little bit on the lighthearted. I'm just like right away throwing the hard questions at you because it's you and whatever, you have to deal with it. I don't have to be professional with you. So this is going to be a good one. Okay, so first of all, maybe we should just like help people that don't know us know a little bit about our relationship. So what are like a couple of ways you would describe the relationship that you and I have together?
I was lucky to be in that room, when you were born.
I hope Cam and Serena are listening right now, by the way.
Yes, and that was like very special moment for me, and was like, like just amazing. And your mom going through that labor and dissing me and like swearing at me, and I didn't think that at that moment that we were going to have another child, because I thought, oh man, something's going to happen to her.
Oh my gosh!
And that the moment you were born, the moment I saw you, that was like a special moment. And ever since then, we just had a great relationship. And I don't know if you remember that we had that article in the. Actually, you wrote that article in the province.
In the newspaper,
we have that picture, like your mom have that picture on the wall.
Yeah.
So,
fathers and daughters. That was the article for Father's Day.
Exactly.
So we have a pretty good one, right? Yeah, you would say we have a pretty good relationship.
Of course, yes.
Some people would probably say, and you would agree, that I'm the favorite one.
Well, right now you are. Yeah.
The pause. I hope Cam and Serena I'm going to send this to them, make sure they listen to this. We always bug you guys. And you know what? I'm a mom. I know it's so hard to have a favorite kid. Like they're so different, right? So that's all.
Yeah, well, let me tell you one thing. Like, me and your mom, we always like talk about this. We always like, I know you say it in a funny way, but to us, all three of you are so important, and all three of you are so loving.
Aww,
we love you.
Yeah, I know. I'm the best. So nice. Papa's always, finding a way to admit that I'm the best. Yeah, so I would agree. I would say you and I have a pretty good relationship. I'm really glad you're here. I think we're going to have a good conversation today. So maybe one of the things you and I can start with is you're the oldest of four. I'm the oldest of three. And so what's your experience of being the oldest kid of the family growing up?
Being oldest is one advantage you have is you get to beat up your siblings. I never did that to my sisters, but I like with my brother, I did I did beat him up. We had like always good good laughs and here there.
Yeah.
But like it comes with a little bit of responsibility,
Yeah.
When you're younger. Like my brother, he's like your chacha. He's 5 years younger than me.
Right.
Every time something happens or whatever, like say, oh, like you should be watching him. The responsibility comes to you. And I think you had to go through the same thing. Like if you have me think, oh, Kiran, you are older. Like so, I got to hear that lots. Oh, you're older. You need to be more responsible. Like me, okay, I understand. With me, my brother was like 5 years, but with you, it was only 3 years.
Yeah.
So you're not much older than her, but you get that
but I feel it,
responsibility.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, especially in our culture,
And so, you know what? Like I think in our culture too, I don't know for everyone, but there's also pride. Like I like that we get raised in some ways to have that responsibility to care for our brothers and our sisters, because sometimes I see it in the Western culture. Sometimes they think, oh, kids should be kids. And I think, like kids should be kids, but I also appreciated having that kind of responsibility, especially when Cam was born, because, I was way older. I was 10 by then. I was practically an adult, right? By then. So when he was born, it was like different. But with Serena, sometimes we forget. I'm like, I'm only 3 years older than you, but it feels like I'm 10 years older than her. So that's always interesting. Well, and also you and mom sometimes look at me too to make the decisions as well. You guys treat me in a different way too as the oldest. Sometimes I jump in and I'll make the family decisions and things like that too. Like, no, we're not doing this, or yes, we are doing this, right? Like I made you take me at the age of 17 to go get my first tattoo.
Yes, like you mentioned, like about Cam, like being 10 years older, and I would say that you are the second mother to Cam. Like you helped a lot with growing up.
Yeah, we did.
And yes, too. Like I was like you mentioning about your first tattoo, and like always, like we try to. Same thing like your mom also, like we try to be like, let you guys do what you want to do. We did not try to like restrict you, like, okay, you guys can't do this, you guys can't do. And also, there's like comes some responsibility. Sometimes, you have to tell, okay, this is not right, this is not, but we try to like also with my, like, my experience with my parents, like my dad was also like that I could talk to him, I could like if there's a problem, like whatever, I could go talk to him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think like we have a same relationship with the you, Serena, and the Cam, that we can talk if there's something, we can talk.
Yeah, totally. And I always feel that whole village thing, that it takes a village to raise a kid. Like we also, when we didn't feel comfortable going to you or mom, we had so many aunts and uncles that we were very close to that were a lot younger than you and mom, because you and mom were both the oldest in your family. So your siblings were so much younger and they were so much more cooler. So just like our kids can go to my brother if they don't feel comfortable with us, we got to go to our aunts and uncles, our masis, our mamas, our puas, everyone, chachas, if we had a problem. And, like, oh, can you help me with this or this thing at school? Or if we liked someone at school, because we weren't allowed to date, right? We weren't allowed to have boyfriends and girlfriends, but naturally you're developing as a kid. You can't help it if you think someone's cute at school or something. So we would feel comfortable to go to them and talk to them about that. So it was really nice that we had that kind of a close family relationship, that there was always some adult in our life that we could go to for help or to go have some fun with. I learned a lot about music through all my aunts and uncles because they came really young when you guys came from India, and they they've been here longer. I mean, you've been here longer, because how old were you when you came?
Oh, I was 15 years older, but older than like my siblings
Yeah.
rather. But like
Yeah.
I had that, even now, like I feel that I have like both cultures in me. Like more, still, I would like, even though I've been living here for a long time, I believe I still have like more Indian culture in me
Yeah.
than Canadian.
But
Yeah. So
should like, do you think that's a bad thing or good thing, or what do you think about that?
I think you should always, have your culture, and also like at the same time, you come to Canada or any other country, you do need to adapt to new culture, and
Mm-hmm.
do need to learn new things. You can't be just stuck in your own, but
Mm-hmm.
also at the same time, don't forget where you came from,
Yeah.
where your family and our culture. Like we stay with like extended families. I've done that in India, and
Mm-hmm.
so also even here, like when we came, and also then my uncle was already here, and then my aunts, my grandfather, they came, and we lived in the same house.
And on the
At
same street, right? There was like 3 houses on
Exactly,
the same street. We all grew up together.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And slowly, they got to move to their house, but they were not too far.
Yeah.
So we used to like spend a lot of time with each other, and going back and forth.
Yeah. On one hand, that's great because there's so much love and, so much loudness, music, everything, food, people around us. Did it only feel good when you guys were all living together, or was it hard sometimes to do that as well?
Like for me, I never felt any hardness, because I like everybody that was staying in that house, except like my pua, my aunt, she got married. So
Mm-hmm.
then we had our pupad, like our uncle Nirmal. Me and him, like we got very close to each other, and other than that, like I stayed with my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed with my uncles. I will maybe like in the as we go on, then I'll explain more. I stayed with my grandparents, like when my dad and mom, they like my dad, your grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a job that we got kept getting promoted, and then he kept going to different cities. Like he started in Shimla, and that's where I started my school. And then he moved to Gurdaspur, and then Chandigarh.
Mm-hmm.
Then like say every year or two he had to move, and to finally he moved to Calcutta, Bengal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he like before that, that's when he realized that it's not good for me to keep moving from city to city.
Yeah.
So I need to stay like in a one school. So then they decided that I came and I stayed in the village with my grandparents, and where my aunts and
Mm-hmm.
my uncles were, and I spent a lot of time with them. And that's why I'm very close to them,
Yeah.
because they were wonderful to me. And of course, when your parents are not there, right, you always like whenever my grandfather's
Yeah.
responsibility to make sure that I'm studying and I'm doing everything
Right.
right.
Yeah.
So that then I got beat a few times, like
Yeah.
and he goes, then I would cry and say like, oh, if my parents were here, they
Yeah.
won't do that to me. But now I'm sitting here, that I'm proud of my grandfather, and I'm proud of like my uncles and aunts,
Yeah.
and they gave me so much love to me.
It's a community. Everybody comes together and helps. And I'm sitting here laughing because I'm like, imagine you and mom being those kind of, you guys have no way of being those kind of grandparents to your 4 grandsons. They run your house when they come over. You guys don't ever have any say. So can you imagine if you had to tell the kids they have to go to school? Like you would, I mean, you come to Calgary, I know, stay with the kids to give Carrie and I vacation and all that, help them go to school and stuff. But it's so different in the way that your role is with them than your grandpa's role with you, hey?
Yes, of course, it's very different. Like but the thing is, it's like a lot of respect also at the same time. Like I remember one story, like where my uncle, my younger uncle, like he's in Canada now. He's here, right? Like I try to spend a lot of time with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so one time, like I remember, we were at somebody's house, and he was married. He was married at that point,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened between him and my grandfather, like his dad, right? So he
Oh,
slapped him,
yeah.
right?
Your
And everybody's
grandfather
just looking,
slapped
right?
your uncle.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah,
That's right. And he was like not a young kid, like he was married,
yeah.
and he was old. But my uncle, did not say a word. I'm pretty sure that he was inside. He was mad,
Yeah.
angry, but he did not say anything. He just sat quiet there. And I remember that when we got home, next time he had that conversation with my grandfather, and he told me, and you should not have slapped me in front of
Mm.
everybody else. When we came home, you could do anything. You could beat me up or whatever.
Yeah.
But then my even like my grandfather, he was different with me.
Mm-hmm.
But with the other when he got to Canada, he got so soft he wouldn't let say anything to them, right?
Yeah.
Because like exactly what you're saying about our grandkids, right?
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
change just between. It's like a lot of the time I feel that I talked about your mom too about this, like abuse, like say like my dad beat me up,
Yeah.
right? Even
Yeah.
my mom like few times beat me up, right? But it was always that I look back, I always something I did wrong.
Yeah.
That's the reason. And if I say like now that my parents abused me or something like that,
Yeah.
I don't feel that way, right? I don't know like
Yeah.
what it is, right? I just like it even in school there, like when the like sometime the kid did something and the parents will go to the school
Yeah.
and they will tell the teacher, okay, if he does something wrong, beat him up,
Yeah, I know,
beat
right?
him up, right? Like
Yeah.
make sure, right? So like I think like some of the at time like culture or whatever,
Yeah.
that was the only way
Yeah.
to teach the kids, right?
And
So,
then you
but
come
like me,
here, and that way is against the law. And
that's
so,
right.
like you said, how do you adapt to that? Because that's a huge change. Because here you're judged for thinking that that's discipline. Here it changes. The word changes from discipline to abuse, right? That's a hard adjustment to go from. Because I grow up not thinking that was discipline. I grow up thinking that was abuse. My kids are going to grow up definitely thinking, oh my gosh, if I'm hitting them, right? And meanwhile, that's part of our culture. That's where we come from. So it's, how do you guys deal with that, with something that you used to do in your home is treated as that's not right, that's wrong?
So one thing is, when we got married, I was in Canada for already like I think 7, 8 years. Growing up here a little bit, you learned a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
So you have to change. Yes, like, but I know that for like a lot of older parents or older, grandparents that come from India, it's very difficult
Yeah.
for them, right? And one of my friends, he works in the court, right? And he sometimes like he won't go in details or say anybody's name because he's not allowed to. But he
Right.
says like we are getting a lot of cases, in the courts where like the grandparents are, have to face child abuse.
Wow. Yeah.
They say something to the because they're used to that, right?
Yeah.
Like you just mentioned that part, in your question that how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Because that's the way they are, and that's the way they can't change. Like they're not going through that change, and nobody uh, tells them, so they are confused, right? They're
Yeah.
like they say like I'm just trying to discipline my grandson or
Yeah, that's
something
right.
like
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
he goes like it's very very difficult for them, right?
Yeah.
So I think for older people, it's like very hard to change, but for a younger generation, you understand that. But also, I would say like the kids are here, like the like I'm talking about my kids and I'm talking about my family.
Yeah,
Like
I know, right?
the
That's all
kids
you
are
can talk about. Yeah. Yeah.
kids are easy to take care. Like they're not doing that kind of stuff that we were doing in India, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
way, it's like the things are like my grandson come here, like they are disciplined. They don't do anything like that, like that doesn't come up to that part that where say, okay, I'm gonna beat you up. Like we
Right.
talk to them or whatever, like So I think it works that way. Like
Yeah,
so,
because you're right. As the generations, like that's the hope that our generations can grow. And sometimes it's hard because you hear some generations say, well, we grew up different. Why is everyone complaining? And I don't think it's anything like that. I think we just have to accept that we learn and we get educated and we grow. And because one time, it's like a movie. In the 80s, a movie was really funny. And today, if you watch that movie, it's offensive to genders, cultures, races, everything in between, right? Like in time, we learn what's okay and what's not. And I think that there's lots of issues nowadays between, let's say, my generation and adult children and their parents. So you're a child, I'm an adult, and there's struggles because a lot of us are growing up and realizing, oh, okay, that's why I was struggling with some of this stuff as a kid. And your parents are just doing the best they can. They're not, our parents aren't hitting us. Your parents and your grandparents weren't hitting you because they wanted to be mean to you. They thought that's what you do to discipline, right? So we're all learning and we're getting all this knowledge now, but a lot of that knowledge, I think, is hurting a lot of relationships because on one hand, we know, okay, it's, you and mom know how to discipline your grandchildren. It's very different than the way you guys disciplined us. My question is, what would you say to those adult kids like me listening and their parents listening about how to work on those things together?
The adults like you or even younger than you, I noticed that they are very different. They are very different than the older, like say,
Yeah.
older, like they're stuck at one point. I would say the change is very important. Say for them, it's very important for them to change. They
Mm.
to make little change in their life. Okay, so, this is the way. This is the way things are now. Like you can't just keep going, oh, we didn't do that. We were like, things were different at that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
The things have changed now. We are like, the kids are like way smarter now. Even like 3, 4 years old, can tell me how to, play video games,
Yeah.
all that stuff. Like
Right.
they are different, right? Like, so my advice would be to for me to take advice from them because
Oh,
I
that's
see
good
them,
advice. So,
yes, I see them like doing a lot of good things,
yeah.
which I did not do
Yeah.
as a like when I was my time, when we
Yeah.
were parents, because we did not know. I
Right.
did not know. Like I learned a lot of stuff through your podcast and also from learning from other people.
Yeah.
But I would say like to younger people, the communication is the big with your kids. Like that's a big thing. Like so that if there's a
Yeah.
problem with your kids, like they can come to you, they can talk to you, right?
Yeah.
So that they don't have to go somebody else. But even if they go to somebody else, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
But as like the younger parents, you want to have you want to do things for your kids, that are important. Put them in sports, like let them, help them with the career, like what they want to
Yeah.
do. Like, a lot of the players, I think one of your podcasts where, he was mentioning that, he wanted to do something in his career. Then when he talked to his parents and the parents had no idea, about
Yeah.
that career,
Yeah.
but they say, the first thing they say, no, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are the things we need to see everybody cannot be a doctor or engineer, right?
Yeah.
So there's now there are a lot of other things that I don't even know, like a lot of other careers,
Yeah. Like,
that are
okay.
out there.
Can you imagine if Diljit Dosanjh was a doctor? Look at what we would be missing, right? Like
There you go.
look at where he belongs and look at how he, sure you can be a doctor and help our community, but also you can be in the arts world and teach other communities about our community as well, right? And so there's so many different ways. I'm sure when you were a kid, like what did you want to do when you grew up? Like what was something that you wanted to do?
Well, when I was a kid, you always, always like, especially like when I was really younger, like you want to have stuff, you want to have toys. Like in India, it was hardly anything. I wanted to be like parent there where I could give everything to my kids, right? But
Oh, that's cool.
I was missing that part, that for that, you have to work hard and you have to make some money.
Yeah.
But I was missing that part. And I also as in India, most girls, boys, I wanted to be a movie star. I wanted to be an actor, right?
Who did you want to be like? Who was your favorite?
I want to like with Tarminder.
I knew it. I was gonna say it.
It was cool to see him. Like at that time there was no social media. You didn't know like a lot of stories or videos.
Yeah.
You only see them in movie, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And I wanted to be one of those, because my parents, when we were younger, even, I got to see, go to movies, very young age.
Yeah.
I was and so I started watching movies. And that was one of my things,
yeah,
to sneak away sometimes, with friends, whatever, go see a movie.
Yeah.
And
Varinder, did you skip school when you were little?
I would say okay, I skipped school once once,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
maybe more than once, right? But I remember only once, right? Where okay, like I was a good student. I was good in school.
Yeah,
Like
you're pretty
I had
smart. I
always,
know. Yeah.
I had high marks and
Yeah.
all that. But I also had friends like okay, they want to go to see a movie,
Yeah.
right? And I inside of me, I don't want to go because I was scared. Like what I
You don't
if
want
I
to
got
break the
caught or
rule.
whatever.
Yeah.
So okay, I'll tell you the story. So like they say, okay, let's skip this part of the school and go see. Okay, so we ended up going. We like go to the. I had a bicycle, right? So like we already all took our bicycles, parked it there, got our tickets. Luckily, we had some money on us, right? And we got inside, and then when I came out, I was like, I was hoping that nobody saw me. My bad, like there was like a tractor going by as soon as we got out. We there was going by
Yeah.
that cinema, right? And he
Yeah.
saw me. He saw me.
Yeah.
I know he saw me. I said, okay, man, I'm in trouble now already. So like he went, or my dad was already in Canada at that time, right? So
Yeah.
it was just me, my mom, and my younger sister, right? We were living in that house in a village called Koloya. And he already went to my mom. He already went told him, okay, your son was, I saw him there, like he was coming out of this cinema, right? And the first thing she asked, did you go? She asked me, she said, did you go see or watch a movie today? First thing is, no,
No.
I didn't know. And the thing is, I was so good at school and I was good at home too, right? And
Yeah.
she believed me. She believed me.
Oh, Maji.
And yeah, she believed me. And, ever since then I felt bad. But then finally, when we here, like one day I said, Mom, you remember that? She goes, yeah. And then I told her I did go to,
You
you know,
confessed. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, that's right. Yeah.
Well,
So there's your answer.
you were better than me because when I skipped school, remember I got caught. So
Yeah,
you
that's
didn't
what
get
happens.
you didn't really get
It was
caught. Yeah.
actually, it was your mom. It was your mom. Like I didn't kept track of you guys.
Yeah, I
Like
know.
but
It
your
was
mom,
her. She was good.
even with your brother, like
Yeah.
she always like she kept track of you guys, where you
Everything.
were,
Yeah.
what you were doing, which kind of friends you have,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
She did that.
Yeah.
She did all that,
Yeah.
and yes.
Yeah, I know. We would have been way worse for sure if we didn't have that. That's a cool story, though. I was going to ask you, like, part of why we're here today is to talk about the Western and the Eastern. And you're talking a little bit about what life was like in India when you came here. When you guys made the decision to move here, like, do you remember that? Like, because you would have been getting on a plane for the first time. Like, what kind of conversations were happening around you? Because you're leaving your home and going to a whole new place. So I've never had that kind of experience where I've ever had to leave my home and know that I'm probably never coming back, right? Like we go on vacation, but we come back. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was like, like fortunately, my dad came here before us, right? So my other uncles were here. My aunt, my Pua, she was the one who came first. So my uncle, like my mom's brother, like they asked my dad, like say Paji, like as a brother, like why don't you come here, right? And my dad was felt that he had a good job there. He was working a government job, like very high job, and he was pretty happy with it, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, no, I'm good here, right? I'm fine. Like he goes, okay, you know what? Why don't you come visit us? And if you don't like it here, you can always go back.
Yeah.
And so then my dad decided, like I think I was in grade 6, 7, something like that.
Yeah.
So he like at that time, a lot of people will like I'm talking about 70. I think he came in 1970. So he came as a visitor, right? He came as a visitor, and then he looked around, he saw everything here, and then he decided to stay. Okay, and things were easier at that time, so he got through all that process. But he had to work hard, because he never did any labor. Like first of his few jobs were as a laborer in a farm. And I remember him telling him, when he came after his job, like he came home and he couldn't even take his shoes off. Like my uncle, like he had to take his shoes off. So, but the thing is, a lot of people that come, Then they start, they start getting another job, even though they come from like, they have a like high job
Yeah.
at back at home. But he ended up working in railway, CNR, and where like he worked during the daytime, and after when he got off, like he would study
Yeah.
because he had to update his accounting, like he wanted to be so he
Yeah.
had to study for that. And fortunately, like there was a foreman, like he said, okay, if you help me with your with my paperwork, then I can give you some time off. You can study, and this all came from my dad telling those stories, right? So,
Yeah.
but anyways, then he like getting back to your question. So he was here, like so we came in 1973,
Right.
and him and my uncle together, they already had a house in Delta. It was a summertime at that time, so we came to the house, and so it was not like struggle for us,
Yeah.
right? Because I was younger, and also, yeah, like to answer to your question, so those times, like very few people were coming sort of Punjab to Canada or England, America, right?
Yeah.
So like when people find out my I was still going to school, and when they find out that I'm going to Canada, right? They all want to be my friend, right? Say, hey,
Oh.
when you go there, make sure you call us. Like we want to come there too, right?
Yeah. So it was like
So
the
it was very
dream. It was a
exciting.
dream to come
It
to
was a
Canada.
dream. It was very exciting. It was
Yeah.
like it was very really exciting.
Yeah.
That we are going to Canada, right? We are
Yeah.
going to Canada. So it was like you see the pictures, like like my dad will tell the pictures, like here we don't like the snow now,
Yeah.
but like when there were pictures of my dad, my uncle, my aunts, like in the snow.
Yeah.
I said, oh, I want to be there, right? I,
Yeah.
I want to I want to play in the we take a picture in the snow,
Yeah.
right? So it was very exciting, like when we heard that we are and ended up in Canada. So yes,
It's really cool to hear like a lot of first stories that immigrants share is about the snow. There's been a few that I've heard on the podcast, but even like outside when you talk to people, that's a very big memory because a lot of the climate is often, warmer where a lot of people are coming from. And so when you go and have your first winter, it's always like such a big, take pictures and make sure you remember that memory. So when you guys got here, would you say, because you went to school here as a teenager, so what was that like for you?
going to school, like it was very difficult, like especially when I was in high school. There were only about I would say three other kids, students, like who were Indians.
Yeah.
And the thing was like, funny thing, like I'll just go back when we immigrated, like, like I was, when I was like in school, like they start English from grade 6.
Okay. Yeah.
So like, when I first like started school, I was in Shimla. It was an English medium. So you were learning English, Hindi, right? And then when I came, even I went to school in Gurdaspur, where also like English medium. So, when my parents dropped me to with my grandparents, my English was good, but my Punjabi was not good.
Oh,
So when I went
interesting.
to school in our village, and all the kids were making fun of me because I could not write Punjabi properly. But of course, as a kid, you learn fast,
Yeah.
right? And then I forgot about English because grade one, like I was started in grade 3 or something when I was in Punjab, right?
Right.
So by the time I got to grade 6, like I forgot English, whatever. So like
Yeah.
in grade 6, they start again.
Oh
So
my
like this
gosh.
ABC thing,
Yeah.
right? So when I was in grade 10, I thought, oh, I know English, right? Like
Yeah.
I was like, see, I'm going to have no problem.
Yeah.
So when we got on the plane, they make those
Yeah.
announcements.
Yeah.
I did not understand a single word.
Oh
I
man.
didn't say. I
Oh.
said, what are they saying?
Yeah.
Like, what are they saying? What kind
What
of English is
language is
this?
that?
Like,
Yeah.
that's when I realized that no, you don't know English. And
Yeah.
then going back to the school, it was very difficult. Like I recall those days, like it was because of the language, right? Though I tried to say okay, I can talk to these Indian guys, right? They
Yeah.
they don't want to talk to me. They want to be more like westernized. They want to
Oh
be like more
yeah.
Canadians. They don't want to do anything with me,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
they don't want to lose their other friends, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the times I would just sit by myself, right?
Right.
And sometimes that was the point that I wanted to go back because yes, oh, it's like because at home, you can speak freely.
Yeah.
You know your language, right?
Yeah.
So that was the point. That was a kind of a hard, and also like there was a lot of racism.
Yeah.
Like where like I was afraid to talk because like even when I talk with somebody, the other students, they would start laughing because of my accent,
Right.
right? And those, so then I was like very reluctant to speak. I said,
Yeah.
like if I want to say something, I'm going to say something wrong or something, right?
Yeah.
And they all thought like, they all thought I came from like elephants and all that, like they
Yeah.
all
Just
asked me about stories. Like,
stereotypes.
so, yeah. So, but I want to mention there was one girl in my class there, like when I was in, actually, yeah, this is like when I was in grade 10, like before high school. And she understood, she realized that, I don't know, can speak English very well. And I am having like hard time. And when I'm walking to school, the kids give me hard time, right? And then she will walk me to school, to home. She will take me to home. Like she will make sure, like she was not a very big girl, but
Was
she
she a
will
white
fight.
girl?
Like yes, she was a
Oh,
white girl.
wow.
And I don't know her name now, right? Like, but I wish
Oh,
I
you
could
remember
find
her
out
though.
and
Yeah.
thank her. And even at that time, I just wanted to get home. My
Yeah.
my point was like from school to get home
Yeah.
without getting beaten up or
Yeah.
getting pushed to the ground, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as when I got too close to the home, I would just run.
Right.
And I was so bad. Like I didn't realize that. Now I realize that I didn't even thank her. I wouldn't even say like she would stand
Oh,
there,
right. Yeah.
watch
Yeah.
me, right? And the next day she will do the same thing. So there's always like nice people you meet in your life, and also like sometimes there's a racism going on and you don't even know. I remember one time me and my brother we were walking from school, and then this car going by us, right? They rolled down their window and they are going to us, push your elephant, right?
Oh my God.
And we didn't realize what are they talking about. I think,
Yeah.
oh, this is funny, right?
Yes.
As we turned like the corner, we were watching, and me and my
Yeah.
brother, we both start singing, "Hey, push your elephant, push
Oh
your
man.
elephant."
Yeah. You think it's so funny.
We
Yeah.
didn't have no
You
idea.
just
I
think,
thought they're
yeah.
just exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's one more thing I want to mention
Yeah.
about the high school. Then there was this Chinese boy, right? He had a car. He would drive to school.
Right.
So he noticed like, okay, I am, mostly I don't talk to too many people. Like I'm just sitting by myself. So then
Yeah.
he came to me. He became my friend, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then he will give me ride. He will drop me home, right?
Yeah.
And then also he says, I'm going to take you to a football game, right? And I
Oh.
had no idea about football at that time. It was the BC Lions and they were playing at old Empire Stadium by the PNE.
Yeah.
And so he drove me. And before that, he took me for a dinner at Chinatown.
Yeah.
And then we got soup and all that. And then I'm eating, enjoying the soup. And he said, "You know what kind of a soup is this?" I said, "No." He says, "It's a snake soup."
Oh.
Oh my God! I should not mention that actually here to you,
That's okay.
right?
I'm fine. Yeah.
But man, oh man, I just almost threw up
Oh,
there. Like,
yeah.
I felt. But like, anyways, like I had no idea about football and that. And we went to the game.
Yeah.
I'm not in touch with him or anything
Yeah.
right now. But
Yeah.
I think he moved to a different city or something
Right. Yeah.
after high school. So
That's really nice. And in all of these really bad memories you have coming here, trying to learn the culture. And then it's interesting you meet Punjabi people or Indian people that are like, we got to survive, right? So that's called assimilation. They're like, we want to be like the Gore. We don't want to be friends with the Apne, which that's how I remember growing up too. I identify with that too. And you're trying to relate. And it's hard because you get that one nice white person that is really, really kind, but that's one out of all of these other people. So it's hard to trust as well. But always you see people that come from different cultures, they always find their way to each other. Like the Chinese kid and like because you know what, you guys have very similar experiences and not identifying, not growing. The other thing that I didn't know and I learned today, and I think is really interesting, is like, here you are, first of all, in your own home, your own country, getting treated like you don't belong, right? When you were little and you knew better English and your Punjabi wasn't good. And then you come over here to Canada and very similar experience where now your English isn't good enough and and that's a really good story about what a lot of us share. A lot of us, that's the gap that I always talk about that we grow up in, where you're not good enough for your own culture, but you're not good enough for the white people culture. And so you're like, I can't be Punjabi enough and I can't be white enough. Like, what am I supposed to do? Right. So it's interesting to hear those stories. And I hope that at this age, do you and your friends, like, do you guys share those kinds of coming to Canada? And well, first of all, I know you're cool. All your friends are younger than me. You have like 30, 40-year-old friends, but any of your friends that are your age, do you guys talk about these stories and connect over these memories and these things? Because you guys grew up not talking about any of this. Like, you never shared these stories, right? Often as men in our culture, which we'll talk about in a minute, right? So like, now, do you guys talk about these things?
Yes, of course, we do. A lot of my friends, they have like a different story than me, because for me, it was very smooth.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, my dad was here. So like for us, like my mom and my brothers, sisters was so smooth.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of stories that, people they came a little older, like when they came, and they had to struggle. One friend of mine, he came, as what do you want to say, illegal.
Oh yeah.
Maybe illegal
Okay.
is the word, right?
Yeah.
So like he was giving advice that you throw your passport away and all that, right?
Yeah.
So he was detained, whatever, like not a prison, So the story he told us, like he says, oh man, I think they're gonna send me home, like they're gonna send me back, like because he spent a lot of money to get here, right?
Right.
I know it's not right to be illegal to come, but like the thing is like sometimes to get a better life, whatever you will do anything.
That's right.
Like I know you probably heard a lot of stories where people have died, agents. So there's also movies where the agents they'll take the money, and they'll put you on a boat, and then they don't want to do anything. They'll drown the boat purposely. I have seen a lot of that. And but going back to my friend, so he said he struggled, whatever, but he was lucky that he got to stay here. But he says a lot of stories. I mean, I can I go on and on and on. It's very disturbing to listen to that. Oh man, but those are the kind of people like that. They go through that, and those are the kind of people that get more successful in their life. In here, because they have seen that. Because they have seen, what they have to go through, and they know that how they got here. Right? So they want to make they want to take full advantage of that, and those are I've seen that those people get more successful.
Yeah, there's the fight is in them, right? It's like I agree. You see the work that they do when they get here to get to where they are, and I think what I like about this conversation too is like every immigrant story is not the same. And, like how you share your story, it's very different than, like you said, your friends. And I know it's disturbing to hear that. I think sometimes maybe that's also why a lot of in your generation, even for men, like, one of the reasons why you and I are talking today too is because June is Men's Mental Health Month. And I thought, okay, this would be good to talk to you about your story and your life, because so many men, even today, younger than you in generation, still struggle with not talking about what's going on for them, and B, having to be, stoic, very serious and strong. And I see that a lot in our culture for a lot of the immigrant dads who had to come here, like you said, work so hard to get to where they are. Most of their life was work, but then you also see, alcoholism, or you see violence, and you see all these other things, because in our community, we're only just learning about mental health now, right? And so I'm curious for you in your 60s now, like talking to your guy friends, and even for yourself as a man, like where do you think you started as a man, and where do you think you kind of come to? Like, what is your understanding of what it means to be a man?
Going, when I got married, I was 23, and I have to be honest with you that I don't think I was ready. I was ready, where you guys are, like you took your time. Okay, now we are ready. And it was like, okay, my dad said, okay, it's time for you to get married, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it was like not like a responsive. I don't feel like a responsibility. It was just another thing. Okay, you have to get married.
Yeah.
You have to get married, right? And it took me a long time to figure out because, like, I don't know, you probably remember, like how angry I used to get, right? I had that problem, like where I was like, I was getting angry and your mom always like, like, okay, say like, okay, complain to my dad, right? Okay, this is what he's doing. Like my thing was I would get angry and then I will throw whatever is in my hand
Yeah.
and break it. And that's what my dad would look at like, like, okay, you broke this and, she's suffering. But I don't think anybody understood, even I didn't understand sort of what's inside me, what's bothering me,
Yeah.
why I'm getting angry, right?
Yeah.
Like, at that time, like, I didn't get any help,
Right.
right? Like I should have, like, if probably counseling there, but I had no idea
Yeah.
that there's a counseling that
Yeah.
I can go to counseling for anger management or something like that, right? So I didn't do that, and like I said, took me a long time to understand like why I was getting mad. I heard a lot of podcasts like this. It's now, but like before, I heard a lot of things. Now, man, like you have to make a change.
Yeah.
You have to make a change. You cannot be like this. You cannot be like angry like this, right? I have to change. I cannot this bother me. I have to support her, or we have to have a better relationship, right?
Yeah.
In my early, like, 20s or 30s even, right?
Yeah.
I would get mad.
Yeah.
I would get mad. Like, so I was gonna say, okay, fine. So this is the change I saw myself, right? This is what I wanna like advise other people too, like
Yeah.
you cannot change other person. You have to make a change yourself.
Yeah. What I really like about what you shared is exactly what you said was like, it's what can I do? What am I in charge of? And a lot of times we think we can be in control of our environment, we can be in control of the people around us, and we struggle because we don't know how to communicate. And you're trying to figure out how to communicate with yourself, but also like that's mom's journey. Mom has to figure out for herself, how to manage some of that stuff, which, that's hers. But what can you do in the moment to keep yourself calm? And what can you do to help? Because right now it's one thing at a time. And I think that's like self-awareness is so big. And that's what I hear you saying is what you didn't have in your 20s, 30s, 40s. And what you're finding now is like, A, you're doing the work to grow as a person, and B, build your own strength, capacity, thinking, all that stuff so that you can manage, the problem that you have, which is the anger. I think that's great. And it is good to like see these things in the moment and be like, oh, I did really good here. Because we're so bad at feeling good about doing good. We're always like, I'm such a bad person. So it's good to also say, oh, I handled that situation really well. So that's awesome.
I think like, when I'm talking about this, I'm not just talking about your mom. I'm talking about particular, like,
your
like,
stuff. Like what your role is.
Like, like we need to like understand priority. What is the priority here now?
Yeah.
Anything in life, we have to make a priority. Like, what is more important? Sometimes you have to sacrifice. Sometimes you have to give up something to get something.
Yeah.
Right? Like say in a hockey, right? Sometimes you want to get a certain player. So a team wants, okay, we like this guy, but he's not gonna come free. You have to give up something,
right.
Some player or somebody, like, you have to give up something to get that person. So
yeah,
yeah.
I love that you had to bring hockey into it because, we've gone 59 minutes and we haven't once mentioned sports. And I'm actually very surprised because the thing that I feel is a big part of your identity, and I'm surprised it actually hasn't come up yet, is sports. Because when you got here to Canada, I remember you saying you guys pretty much just had CBC on TV. First of all, having a TV and then CBC. And so sports, right? And then today I even learned, this is why it's good to talk to our parents because we learned things about them. I didn't even know that it was in high school, the CFL BC Lions game that you went to. I just assumed you watched it on TV. We're big Canucks fans, and I've shared here before that you used to make me for homework. Do you remember what you used to make me do for my homework?
I remember that. Yes, I remember that.
You used to make me memorize the Vancouver Canucks players' numbers and names. That was my homework. And then you and mom are really good at being such good supporters of this podcast and then referring a lot of guests. And my first celebrity I had on was Harpreet Bander from Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi. And I had him on and I failed. He tried to help me remember the players' numbers and stuff. And I couldn't remember any of it. You would be so disappointed. Yes. But yeah, sports like hockey has been such a big part of your life and our life growing up. So how come you connected so much with sports?
Yeah, okay, I'll come back to that. First, you mentioned Harpreet Bander. I don't know if I don't know if I mentioned to you. He's also doing the BC Line games in Punjabi.
Huge. I sent him a congratulations.
Let's get back to the hockey. Hockey is a big thing for me. It's a big thing for me. Like how I got into hockey was, very early, I think when we came from India, and I probably very first winter probably. Dad, there was somebody had a season tickets from his work, right?
Mm-hmm.
They gave him tickets, he got tickets from work, whatever. Say okay. And I remember it was a preseason game. It was against the Philadelphia Flyers.
Oh,
and we got to sit very close to the ice. You don't watch too many games from that that angle there.
Yeah,
that was completely different. For me, completely. What are they I was looking at because I seen roller hockey. Before, in India, even in Shimla, there was a rink there.
Yeah.
People were doing, I said, they're not on the wheels. It's what are they doing, right? It was very strange and very so.
So that's the first time you saw skating. That's the first exposure.
That was the first time. That was the first time for me, going to a rink and watching. Thanks to my dad. Plus, actually, who gave us the tickets, right? I really thank to them. And that's how I got into the hockey. And also at that time, my uncle, he was also watching hockey. There was only one game at every Saturday, or I think was when only got to watch Hockey Night in Canada. And if we have to go to somebody's house. So my dad, everybody really got into hockey, and if we had to go to somebody's house, and then my dad said, okay, the first period is over. You got when the period is over, you got 15 minutes, right? Okay, now we'll go to somebody's house, and then he'll try to ask them, can we put the hockey game on? They don't care about hockey or whatever.
Yeah, right? So that was different, right? Not everybody when you guys,
not too many people were into hockey.
It happened to be Dada. Okay, that's interesting.
Dada was in there too, but also my uncle, because at that time the Montreal Canadiens, they were big, they were winning a lot of cups.
Yeah.
So my uncle was a Montreal Canadiens fan.
I can't believe it.
But we didn't like them, but we we could not cheer against him.
Yeah.
Right? Say we watching a game between Montreal and somebody else, we will always cheer for the other team, right? And if somebody if the other team scores, we were not allowed to cheer.
Yeah.
Right? We were we are happy inside, but we were not say, yay!
Yeah.
Right?
You guys are hardcore Canucks fans. That's so funny.
Yeah. So one time, he was the Montreal, they were playing at the old Coliseum, the Canucks, right?
Yeah.
And the Montreal Canadiens came into town, and he was you want to go to the game? I said, yeah. So we drove, we couldn't get the tickets because that was hard. Every time the Montreal Canadiens or Toronto Maple Leafs, even now, right? They come to town and you cannot get ticket, but say we'll get a ticket, we'll buy it from somebody. So there were scalpers outside, we got 2 tickets. Oh, we got 2 tickets, right? We go inside. Oh man, nice tickets. We sit right in the down lower ball.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there enjoying the pre-game warm up, and then all of a sudden, this guy, the usher, he came to us, says, these are not your seats. Says, wow, what do you mean? We paid, and they go, oh, they are stolen.
Man.
I said, oh, we bought from outside. And they took us to this office, right? They say, you guys have to leave. You have to go out because they're not your tickets. So then I start crying, I start crying. Says, you know what? This is the first time I lied a little bit, right? We're good at that, right? Like, but I said, okay. I said, I came to the hockey game first time, and my uncle, he's a big Canadian fan, right? And he was like, if you take you outside, can you spot the guy? Like, I knew that if you go outside, you won't
No,
be
where are you
able to
gonna
come
find the
back
guy?
in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then the finally they said, okay, if you can find a standing room or something, you can watch the game. So
Wow. They
so
let
we
you.
ended up staying inside and watching that.
Do
I
you
still
remember if
remember
the
that.
Canucks won?
No, no. I
Oh,
remember that the Montreal Canadiens were
they won. They were
pretty
the
big
one,
at
yeah.
that time,
Yeah.
and we always used to lose to Montreal. Like yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then flash forward to now. So over the years watching hockey, like how do you feel the NHL has evolved or changed? Because you've been following it so closely. You know all the stats, you know everything.
I don't know if you know that even my grandfather, when he came to Canada, he started watching us. He played hockey, like no, field hockey, and he also played soccer, when he was in India, right?
Yeah.
And he was a sports person, so he got into hockey too, right? And he will like always, whenever they're losing, he'll get mad at them. Same thing with my dad, like, oh, I'm not going to watch them again. Whenever they lost, okay, so he'll turn the TV off and go to his room. That's it. I'm
I
not going to watch them
even I
anymore.
remember that when we used to watch together.
Yeah,
Dada,
and
yeah.
and when is the next game? Then what time is the game?
Yeah.
So, oh, you're not going to watch it. Oh, be quiet, right? In Punjabi we say chup kar,
Yeah.
right? Be quiet, like Then I say,
Yeah.
okay, I know, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, now the game is different, right? Like I remember even in '82 they got to the final, right? That was the first time the Canucks went to the final, and my cousin Billy, he got like at that time I don't know, it was easier for to get the tickets, so he got the tickets, and we ended up watching all the games,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the playoff games,
That's amazing.
but. At that time we had to face the Islanders, and there was no choice. And I don't think we won a game in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But '94, we made it again. I was
Yeah.
against the Rangers.
Yeah.
We were almost there, but can't never forget that 2011. I personally feel that the league does not want the Canadians team to win because they want like American teams to win, so that like that because in Vancouver, Toronto, the fans are more passionate. They're going to go to the games anyways, even if you're not winning, right?
Right. Yeah.
So they're feeling that it's my understanding, and
Yeah.
also like in 2011 where we got a lot of injuries, and then they suspended one of our players. Like if same hit was happening now, like somebody else did it,
Mm-hmm.
there's no suspension. I still like think about that, and my dad, he wanted to always like see Canucks win a cup,
I know.
right? And he passed away. I don't know, you remember his funeral, like when we went to
Mm-hmm.
his funeral, and it was. Me and you decided that
Yeah.
we're gonna wear Canucks jerseys.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we go back, and a lot of the people don't understand how passionate I am, like how serious I am about hockey. And like a few, like even now, like this, like when the Canucks lost, right? I knew, okay, that's fine. They're doing good, right? They had a good year. And even, some of my friends, they made fun of me, right? Oh, well, when is going to be, they mentioned when it's going to be game 8, right?
Oh,
And
so
then the other
rude.
guys goes and chill out back. I'm like, I'm upset already, right?
Yeah. Leave me alone.
And like I say, oh, like the stuff like that. It hurts, like when your team goes out. But you have to understand that there are 32 teams. Like
Yeah.
every team's not going to win the cup, right?
Yeah.
So
The best one
yeah.
will. The first time that I saw you cry, let's talk a little bit about toxic masculinity. The first time that I saw you cry was in '94 in Game 7 when the Canucks lost to the Rangers. And we were at Maji and Dada's house. So the whole family was there, as we would be. And you went to the bath. You remember you went to the bathroom and you cried. And I was like, whoa, I think I was like 13 years old. And like, what's going on? I'd always remember. That's one of my like core memories of being like, oh my God, my dad's crying. Like something bad's going on. Because I'd never seen you cry before. So that's interesting that it was the sports.
Men never cry.
Yeah, clearly, man. Exactly. Let's talk about that, right? Only when your sports teams lose or whatnot. So That's something for sure, your passion for hockey. So, I mean, who knows? All this NHL hockey talk, like, what do you think's missing in a lot of these sports leagues or even in the NHL? Anything you think that they could do better as these sports associations?
I mean, are you saying that crowd-wise or like people not interested or like what is your...
No, not really fan wise. I just mean like in the managements and the association, the league, with everyone that's running it. Like, do you see some gaps? Do you see some things missing? Something that they could do better to improve
Well,
as a league?
yeah, like the like we have a like the Batman in there, right? He's running the league, right? And lot of people a lot of people don't like him, right? Like always.
Mm-hmm.
What I see is, I don't know, like sometimes, like say I'm a Canucks fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So somebody's Oilers fan, right? So like say like something against something happens, our player gets suspended, and then we're thinking that, oh man, they are doing to the Canucks. If was another team, they won't do this. What I want to see is some consistency there, suspensions or whatever it is. Like treat all the teams same.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if teams in Canada or teams are in USA, right? Wherever they are, treat them same. And also like the league, they protect their star players. Like, okay, I understand that part, right? Let's say if a star player, say McDavid, he does something, he doesn't get called for a penalty. I'm not particularly talking about McDavid. He's like world class player. No, there's no doubt about it, right? Edmonton's got a lot of talent, right? But what I'm talking about is say a star player does something, he gets away with it. A player like
are you talking about on and off the ice?
I'm talking about on the ice mostly.
Okay, because there's things that happen off the. There's things that happen off the ice too that a lot of them seem to get away with as well.
Okay, maybe I'm missing that.
But no, like there's been like sexual allegations against players, right? And there's been some violence, and that you hear about it one day and the next day it's gone, it's swept under the carpet.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. They have to take those especially like a sexual abuse or any kind of abuse, right? They have to take more seriously, right? Like they have to take because they are the role models.
Yeah.
Right? Those NHL players, football players, any players, like anybody, like singers, rappers, right?
Yeah.
They are the role models. Everybody, especially the younger crowd, they look up to them. Right, they want to be like that, right? So first of all, they have to be they have to be more careful and everything. And if something anything happens, and they need to be punished severely. They just can't just walk away.
Yeah, there's been some of these cases in there where women have had these allegations and. They're never, even, we talk about these allegations, like even if we move from the NHL to Jeeti Pooni and her story. So Jeeti Pooni was on an episode because of you and Mom. You helped me with her. She had a book out called The Silent Stoning. She has a movie out with her sisters called Because We Are Girls. And what we were talking about these sexual allegations in the NHL, but even she talked about in the court system, you have to prove that you're not a liar. It's not that they don't believe you. You have to prove you're not a liar. So these celebrities, like you're saying, they're supposed to have this influence and be our role models, but they take advantage of that often. You know what I mean? And so when I was asking we'll come back to Jeeti, but even when I was asking you if you see any things that the NHL or these sports things could improve, is I know you and I have talked about this too. Like there's very few women or people that identify, in all sorts of other ways of genders and roles. You don't see many of them commentating. You don't see many of them as journalists or out there as analysts, right? And so it's like even Canucks had first time in, I think ever, a woman being a part of their management team not too long ago, right?
Yeah, that's true. That is true. You are absolutely right on this one. Also, I see now I see in the NHL, a lot of the teams, are bringing in some female, assistants. They're more like not lots, but
Right.
it's starting to, their door is open now,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's starting to happen now, right? Like it's not like having a woman in there. Like you have to have you have to have that talent to do the job,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I think, like personally, I think there are a lot of women out there that do have that ability.
Yeah.
Even I don't know if you know the BC Lions, they have a female coach. I think she's been there at least about 2 years.
Oh, that's
You know,
amazing. Yeah.
they brought in her, and also some other teams are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They are trying to also the reporters and all that. A lot of I heard two stories in the NFL. Female reporter going into
Hmm.
their dressing room or something like that. Where they were not treated. They are treated differently. That kind of a stuff needs to go. Right?
Where, what, like, what's your thoughts about it? Because you come from a generation where women are put in a very different, women are not equal to men. And even our community, how many generations talk about this? Even today, even someone in my generation younger having a daughter is not viewed as celebration. It's changing a lot, but still it's not in the same way, right? And so there's all these influences to why women are not equal. And so I'm curious to hear from you, as we were talking about, even just for example, in the sports league, why do you think that it's so uncommon for women to be seen as being equal or paid, as equal or treated that way? Like, you're like, it's got to go, it's got to change. What do you think is one thing we could start to do that can help contribute to that kind of a change?
Well, like I think it's the education. I don't know about the other communities, but in our like Indian community, South Asian culture, right? Like what I seen, I have like when I was younger in India, I seen that the way women getting treated. But at that time, I had no idea. I thought this is the way it is,
Yeah.
right? This is what it is. Like a man is like even if they're going somewhere, like the man is walking like 20 feet ahead of his wife,
Yeah.
and he's just like getting like his hands in his pockets or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's the man. He runs the show.
She got some stuff holding, and she have like maybe a child, or like she's like like like
Yeah.
now I'm saying like now
You
like,
see it, you
because
see this. Yeah, that's good that you see. How
yeah
did you get there? How did you start seeing that? Because that's been happening for years, right? So like it's been happening for years and years. So, but now you're like, oh, I see this. How did that happen?
I know I seen like I think if I was in India, I probably would be like doing the same thing, like same same, my mind would be same, like but like come to this country, and you also see around whatever, like the cases, court cases going on and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I see, like when I was talking about like that man, he walking by himself, like even like when I drove the bus, you know like husband and wife, like I'm mostly talking about the older generation.
Yeah.
They want to get on the bus, and the guy, the husband, he gets on the bus before, and he's fine, and then the like his wife is she's trying to get on the bus, she's struggling a little bit, right? Man, like come on, man, help her out, like, or even let her get on the bus first, so then now you're sure that she's there. I think a lot of that is changing. A lot of that is changing. Like I see in younger generation, like we should learn from other person, right? Like nobody's perfect. Like you're gonna have your ups and downs. You're gonna be one of those these days. You're gonna make a mistake, but don't keep making the same mistakes again and again. Learn from those mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I appreciate that, and I think we were going from the NHL to your what do you think about men, and back to Jeeti Pooni. Like you read her book, The Silent Stoning.
We were recently at GT's book launch. Me and your mom went there. I'm glad I went there. And there was somebody there mentioned that, everybody should have at least one daughter. I sort of agree with that, but also at the same time, like, like if I have a daughter, I'm going to have a better understanding, but it's still like, we also need to teach our sons how to
Mm.
treat women. It's like I never, like growing up, Cam was growing up. He turned to be a very nice young man, but I never told him anything about
Yeah.
how to treat a woman.
Yeah.
But that's where we got to start from.
Yes.
I think you asked me the question like
Yeah.
what we need to do,
Yeah.
and this is what we need to start. We need to start from our home, and we start like when the kids are younger. We got to teach them how to treat girls, how to treat women. Like everybody treats their mom and their sisters nicely, right? But if somebody else,
That's right.
then it's a different story, right?
Yeah.
So if like your son or your cousin or like your nephew, right? So if they're taught in early age, and if they have that understanding, right?
Yeah.
And I think they grow up different, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that's so well said. That's where the change starts in our own home. And yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter if you have a daughter or not. The fact of the matter is we have to change these views, and we have to help boys at a very young age. And if we miss it at a young age, hopefully we can catch it when they're teenagers or as they get older or when they're an adult and make a very bad mistake. Is there someone there in their life to help them understand that was not acceptable? That wasn't okay. I think, we just somehow decide, oh, they're adults now and there's nothing to teach them. But even,
that's right, yeah.
even in Jeeti's book, she talked about it was her cousin who had sexually assaulted her for all those years. And even after the family knew, and, in the movie, you see it too, like family members, her parents, her dad, her brother, people still struggled to believe her and her sisters and want to make a change. People were still protecting the guy. When you read the book, what was that like for you? Because she gets very detailed with what happened to her because she wants people to understand that this is happening to a child. Because a lot of people blamed her, even though this was happening to her. She was being raped since she was a child.
Yeah, that's very sad. Yes, yeah.
So for you reading that, because there's lots of detail in there, good for you. I'm glad you could see it's bigger than you. You have to support this. What stood out to you with that?
She had that book, and she also had that the movie.
Yeah.
Because we are girls, right? I never knew about that actually. I never knew about. I never heard of. And but so one day I was driving to work, and then I was listening to Red FM.
Yeah.
So that's where she came on, and then they mentioned that she broke her silence, about her childhood abuse, and this the first thing came to my mind was like, oh my God, like we gotta get her on your podcast, right? That's the first thing came to my mind before anything else, right?
Yeah.
And then I thought, like, then I was thinking, like this just didn't happen to Jeeti Pooni. It happened or still happening to a lot of other little girls, right? And like how, like, so that's how I first found out. And then I contacted her, like, I got her information, and I messaged her, and then and then she messaged me back, not right away, like it took her a few days because she gets a lot of messages.
Yeah.
And the first thing, like, she mentioned that, this is very important actually, I didn't realize that at that time. She goes like, there's very little, male sport. What I'm saying, like very little male sport, like, she doesn't get that. And she was so happy to have that. And she like really appreciated that. Like, I didn't even realize that. But then when she mentioned that, then I realized that, somebody comes to you. And this is what I learned, that somebody comes to you, a little child, an older person, a female, a male, you have to listen to the story. You have to believe, right? You can't just say that, right? Maybe you're making a story, it's your fault. You should not be wearing these kind of clothes. You should not, those kind of stuff we gotta put aside.
Yeah.
Right? We gotta listen. We have to listen to that, Jeeti Pooni or whoever, like, whoever that person is. We have to make her believe that somebody's listening. She could not talk to her parents because the parents they were different. She was always scared of, like, like I'm going back to the book now because this is how I like know now her, like her story, right?
Yeah.
Through the book and the movie.
Yeah.
So the reason, like, you can clearly see that the parents, they didn't get taught. Nobody told them.
Yeah.
They were busy bringing their family members, other family members to Canada, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
They were giving them try to give them a good life, but they forgot their own family. They were they were teaching their girls or their kids, like, they were teaching them, okay, be obedient.
Yes.
Whoever's older than you, especially, you be obedient. You say, don't talk, against them, or like, don't talk back.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the kind of, like, where, like the parents, like, I don't blame them at that point, like, because, like, they're not taught that, they don't think anything's going to be happening, whatever.
Yeah.
And the poor girl, like, even she mentioned that, when she was learning that, like, he was teaching her how to ride a bike, right? She goes like, I better learn fast because otherwise my dad's going to get mad at me.
Right.
That's all her mind.
Yeah.
Always scared, like, everything. Like, so that's a thing we need to put away. We need to, like, talk to the kids. We need to educate them. Like, she all, like, taking care of her daughters, right?
Yeah.
She got 2 daughters.
Right.
So this is where we need to start. Like, the parents, like the mom, like, she didn't have no idea how to handle this. Like, even, like, I remember back in India, I was young, but I know, like, if something happens, whatever, like, nobody want to talk about it. No, nobody wants to say anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, we, like, just keep it to ourselves. So that's all the other people get. Okay, they can do it again, right? Nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is exactly what happened. If this thing had stopped right there, right, with the first, there, nothing would have happened, right? But now this is what made me emotional. Like, when I was reading that book, it took me almost over 2 weeks, like almost 3 weeks, because I would get emotional, and I'll put the book aside and start thinking about, what we need to do, what we need to change, like, what happened, like, you can do, but you can do about now, right? What's happening now, and you can do that in the future, right?
So what more for you is coming up, like, when you think about what you can do, because you had mentioned before, it starts in our own home. So for you, like, what is something that you want to be doing to help bring light to the importance of changing how we are raising girls and boys and our kids? And because you know what, we are in a world now where we're not just raising boys and girls. Kids are identifying in all sorts of different genders. So there's things that even you and mom are probably like, what? I didn't even know this. And even I'm wrapping my head around as a mom. And so things are changing even faster where I'm at, like you guys are catching up and I'm like, oh my God, there's always stuff to learn. But also
always.
We're better as a community. And I think as a South Asian community, we have a lot of history with our ancestry that goes back to why we didn't talk about these things. When you're colonized, when the Europeans came, they took over, like, we were taught as a community, we couldn't have these kind of conversations. You had to stay, there was lots of secrets, lots of silence, lots of abuse going on. And then you bring that with you when you have, your families and more generations, you bring all of that history with you. Right. And and so here we are talking about Jeeti's, just one story, Jeeti's. This is happening in so many homes. But the big picture is, like, as a community, we can come together, we start educating each other, we start talking about this, we can start to change some of that history. We can start to change that for the future, but we have to have these kind of conversations, right? Like, a lot of times we're too scared to bring it up to a family member because they're going to get mad, like you said. And we have to ask ourselves, like, okay, if I'm going to get mad, why? Where's that? Like, even like the work you're doing with your anger, why is this making me mad? Or even when you were saying, from your 20s and 30s, like, why am I getting so angry? Like, where is this coming from? Like, we have to dig, right? And so when you hear all of this, like, what does that mean to you? What are you thinking about?
Well, what I'm thinking about is it starts with me. Like, it starts with me, and I have to make a change. Like, if I want to see a change, like before I talk to anybody else,
Yeah.
I want to make a change. I want to get more males. Whatever I talk to my friends, I want to talk to other people. Like,
Yeah.
I want to get like more male support. Not just talk. Like, a lot of the time you just talk. Like,
Yeah.
there's no action. Like, we talk, oh, too bad this happened, this and that. And the thing is, like, I commend that woman, Jeeti Pooni.
Mm.
Like, I like what happened, all this, like, she had to go through all that court case, all that stuff she had to go through, right? It took like so many years,
Yeah, like 14
and
years.
she had a lot of courage. Like, it's not like just for her.
Yes.
Of course, it's not just about her, like, but she took that step. She
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that at that point, she could have lost her husband. She could have lost her house. She could have, like, her child. But she did not care about that, or whatever you want to say, like, worry about that. She still came. Like, if I was in that situation, right, I would have to think twice.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I have everything now. I got a house. I got a husband. This happened a long time ago. Whatever, right? But she just did not do for herself, but she did it for a lot of other
Yes.
girls, other people,
Yeah.
right? So you have to give her, like, I know also at their book launch there,
Mm-hmm.
it was last Thursday, and one of her sisters mentioned, it goes like, it only takes one person, to initiate, to start something, right? And then other people have to come behind us. Also, like, I remember now, like, you had one guest, Ishta, was it the
Mm-hmm.
Ishta
Ishita
Singla?
Singla. Yep. Shout out. Yep.
Remember, like, I still remember, like, a lot of the conversation. I remember, like, it gets stuck in your mind.
Yeah.
She mentioned, like, about some when she was going to school in India, like the people, like, bullying or whatever, right? And then the girls decided that they're going to stand up, right? They're going to stand up for this, right?
Yeah.
And all the girls decided. And then, when the time comes up, like, she stood up and she looked around, nobody else stood up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like, it's all talk. Like,
Yeah.
it's all like she was the one.
Yeah.
But those are the people like Ishta Singla. Those are the people.
Yeah.
People like Jeeti Pooni, her
Yes.
sisters. Those are the people. They make the difference.
Yeah.
They make the difference. Like, you got to learn from that.
We
right?
do have to learn from that. And I think the other thing is part of their difference is they're doing some really hard work and they need us to join that because they've been doing the heavy, like you said, they went to court for over 14 years. And when I talked to Jeeti too, it's like, what made you keep doing this? And like you said, she's like, it just wasn't about me anymore. It was about the future. It was about our system, the court system, all of that.
Yep.
And that's thinking like a collective. That's thinking like a village. That's thinking this is not just about my pain. This is about everyone and how we can all be better. And it takes the Jeetis, it takes the Ishitas to do these things. I worry sometimes that a lot of other people think because these ones are like heroes, that's not me. I'm not like that. So I'm just going to hold on to this, or you know what? Who cares? I won't tell my friends. I'm not going to make a difference. And I just think Jeeti would say this, her sisters would probably say this, and Ishita would say, we are no more different than you. We're very similar. Like, they don't want to be looked as celebrities or these big heroes. They want everyone to know that we're just like you, and what we're doing, you can do this too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Yes.
I don't want the rest of everyone, all of us, to be like, well, that's a special person. Yeah, I know that is a special person. They need the credit for that. But also, we all have something in us to. It doesn't have to be big. We don't have to go write a book. But we can talk to our, like you said, you can talk to your friends and say, this would be a really good documentary for you, or you and your friends get together on Fridays after playing soccer, talking about some things as men so that you have a safe place to talk about your mental health. So if you talk about it, maybe some of those, I'm not saying your friends are this way, but these groups that we get together, if we can talk about it, then maybe some of those people won't go home at the end of the day and become violent or have to worry about alcoholism and those things because they're getting it out in a healthy way. Do you know what I mean? I know I said a lot of stuff, so I don't know if you want to say anything to that.
Yeah. No, I just want to when I was mentioning about GT's, the book launch there, and one of her sisters,
Yeah.
I was going to say something, then I went a different way. Yeah. But anyways, I really was impressed with that. What she said, what she said was it only takes one person.
Yeah.
To initiate. Everybody cannot be heroes. Everybody cannot be like Bhagat Singh or Udham Singh, right?
Yeah.
But what she said was everybody, all we want somebody to be Bhagat Singh. We want somebody to be like Udham Singh, or we want some girls to stand up, right? But not from our house.
Yeah.
Not our son. We don't want our son to do something for our country or for something, and not my son, right? But somebody else's son. We can support them.
Yeah.
That's the point she brought that up.
That's what has to change big time,
that's
right?
What has to change. That's what has to start from your house.
Yeah.
If you they also mentioned, a lot of people. She was even like my dad. They people will call him oh, there's a problem in our house or something. You come and talk about it, right? Give them advice, whatever. She goes here's so much stuff happening in your house.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So I'm not trying to say about her dad.
No, but
I'm just talking in general.
But I think
right?
It's helping you, right? When you hear someone say that, because I think when you do the first thing that we can do for ourselves is like you started right at the beginning, asking ourselves those questions to bring self-awareness. Why am I getting angry? Yeah. Why am I sad? Why am I this? When we start to ask ourselves and learn about ourselves in this way, then when we hear people say those things, we bring it back to ourselves and we think, that's a really good point. What's it going to take for me to not think like that? Or why am I thinking that not in my house? Of course it has to start in my, we always worry about what other people are going to think. That's the big thing that we always say.
Yeah. I hear that a lot. In your episodes, you've got a lot of guests always talk about what other people are gonna say.
Yeah.
And this is true. We come from that.
Yeah.
Exactly. When you were getting married to Carrie, I was thinking, man, what my friends gonna say, what my family, other people gonna say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was. Now I'm learning, now if I go back, then I say, hell with those people.
Yeah.
What they can think whatever they want to, right?
Yeah.
I want my daughter to be happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, right? I remember you saying to me, you'd rather not lose your daughter, you rather gain a son. Right? I remember you realizing in that. And I think
exactly.
And I just want to stop and point out, I think it's very important for all of us and anyone listening to understand that we're allowed to have moments of judgment. You are allowed to think, oh my God, my daughter is going to marry a white guy. What does that mean for me? So it's not that we can't think about that. What we're saying is when we start to think that way, what can we do to help us realize it doesn't matter what other people are going to think? It matters, what do I think? Am I upset? How do I deal with the fact? And then you work through it, right? And here we are 100,000 years later and Carrie's meeting up with you in Toronto to,
Man, oh man, that was a big thing. I'm telling you that, everybody. Yeah, that was a big thing. Him.
Yeah.
Him,
he met family I've never met.
I know he got some work done for himself, but he for me.
When we start to think that way, what can we do to help ourselves get back to, wait a minute, what am I in charge with? It doesn't matter what other people, and it doesn't matter what we do, good things, bad things, ugly things. People are going to say what they're going to say. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and it doesn't mean it's true. So we have to start to not live in hostage of that.
Yeah, actually, part of that is if you look at history, back not talking about now, even when I was in India, I'm talking about before that. If there was say a village or whatever, there was some there probably still some parts of India like that, where somebody does something wrong, they're expelled from the village.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are not allowed to stay there
Mm-hmm.
anymore, right? So
Mm-hmm.
where do they go? They have like their generations and generations have lived there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they have to go somewhere else. And that, I think that was one of the reasons, people didn't want to talk about anything.
Yeah.
They didn't want anybody know what's happening, like there's something bad happened, whatever, right?
That's a
So
good point.
they wanted to be quiet,
Yeah.
right? But now things are different. Now
Yeah.
things are different. Now we don't need to be get stuck in
Yeah.
that belief, right? Like in that part of
Yeah.
of our lives, right? So
Yeah, we can start to let go
yeah.
of that. And also, like, often it's a trick. It's not what other people think, it's what I think. And we don't want to deal with it. It's easier, even if we go back to the Carrie and me getting married, like, it would be easier for you to be worried about what your friend thinks than to start to deal with the fact about what do you think, right? Because that's scary to admit, oh, I don't know if I feel good about this. I don't know how I feel. I just want to talk about part of what we're saying here. We're talking about Jeeti. We're talking about lots of things here today. And a big thing is, I was going to ask you, like, we're not all bad people. I think there's a lot of good in us. And sometimes we do things that upset ourselves, upset others, and then we become villains in other people's lives. A lot of times it's because we have these blind spots and we don't know we have something to change, or we don't know that maybe we could be a better person if we change our perspective. Like, how do you know? Like, what would you say how do you know to change something if you don't see it? Like, how can you start to see things?
Yeah, that is a very difficult situation, very tough
Yeah.
question. Yeah, I understand. Some people are stubborn, right? Like even like the sad part is like you mentioned like, okay, like sometimes you don't know you're doing this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's that you're not doing it on purposely, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes people know they're wrong,
Yeah.
but they don't want to admit that.
Yeah. That's the hard one. Yeah.
That is very difficult. Like say like, okay, I can change myself. Like say if I'm driving, somebody not driving according to the law, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot control him
Yeah.
because he's got his own car, right? I can move to the right side. I can do whatever to
Mm-hmm.
avoid it, right?
Mm-hmm.
All we can do is like try to educate or try to talk, like give them example or whatever, something, right? Try to talk like, okay, man, like look, like if you can do this things this way
Yeah.
or that way, things would be very different, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we both would be happy, or people around you would be happy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so
That's a
like
good point.
say if I'm hurting somebody, like like before, like I remember, I know that long time. Before I was only thinking, you can only hurt somebody by beating up somebody, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like then I find out like no, you can also hurt people like mentally, like
Mm-hmm.
like saying something, like if I slap somebody, okay, that person gonna take it, okay, but if I say something about that person or something that really hurts that person,
Yeah.
and that person is going to be always there.
Right.
It's going to be always with that person that oh man, he said this to me,
Yeah.
right? And I may not even know that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That I hurt somebody so badly. So this is what we gotta be really careful when we say stuff or we talk to somebody, right? We have to keep that in mind that we do not hurt somebody. And if you hurt somebody and then you find out you did hurt somebody, don't be afraid to go and say, hey, I'm sorry.
Oh man.
No,
Right.
like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I should not say that. I realized that. I think that is gonna make a big like difference to that person. This is okay. This person at least understands now,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't say nothing, whatever, right? It's gonna always stay with that person, right? Like
It's
that.
true. It's true. And I think for the person that doesn't get to experience, someone apologizing to them or taking responsibility, I think the work for that person too is how do you heal and work through that for yourself, because not everyone is going to, you said, apologize or own up. That's our hope, that we can all get there. But when we don't know how to
Yeah.
do that, hopefully people still can not be stuck. Because sometimes we think it's justice and we need someone, you betrayed me and you better come and fix it and say sorry to me. But even when they say sorry, we still feel shitty. Like
Yeah.
we still have work to continue doing with ourselves and
Yeah.
and
You have to be sincere, like not just saying sorry. Okay, that's done, right? You have to. It has to come from your heart.
yes,
It
very
it
much.
has to, like when you say sorry, then you have to do something about that. Like you have to make that change.
Yeah.
Like you have to make sure that this does not happen again,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
Because if something's happening again and again and again, then you keep saying sorry, sorry, sorry,
Yeah.
it doesn't go anywhere.
But that's it exactly. Is like we have to see the action and the change, and yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so before we do our end with our middle fingers, is there anything else you want to add or say, or that you wish that I had asked you today, or that we talked about that we didn't?
Oh, well, I think we covered a lot. I don't think we were going to be sitting here for this long,
I
but
know.
I think we talked about a lot of stuff. Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, I
you can
think,
always come back too, because there's so many questions that I
yeah,
had here that we didn't, and that always happens because I like to just go
of
with where our
course.
conversation's gonna go.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
appreciated this conversation today, so we can definitely do another one. But why don't we do our middle fingers up then, if you feel like there's nothing else at this point that you
Yeah,
want to
well,
add?
we'll do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, there's a lot of you can put on your middle fingers to a lot of things. But since we are talking about what we talked about today, but my middle finger will go to those abusive, men that abuse their wives, when drunk or whatever and beat them up. Gotta stop doing that. That can't go on. We gotta stop doing that or abuse anybody like their kids or yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
and also like I can also talk about like the middle finger to the rising costs of food, gas prices and house prices. Like people that are coming new to Canada. It's getting very difficult for them. And also, like I was talking to somebody, at food banks. Like before it was like only the people that were really poor that but now like the people even in the middle class
Yeah.
are going there. So like
Right.
I don't know, I don't know who to blame for this, but
Yeah.
there we are.
There we are. Yeah. I think there's it's impacting so many families,
Yeah.
their mental health, having to work multiple jobs or trying to survive with one income. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think those are both really good middle fingers up. Anything you want to
Yeah.
add
Yeah.
to anything you want to add to either one of those?
Well, yeah, like you mentioned, like a single, parents, so hard for them to survive on a one job, right? And to pay like rent, like it's just crazy, like
Yeah.
close to $2,000 for just one bedroom, right?
Yeah.
And if you have a child, like well, how do you do that? How do you manage all that? And unfortunately, we are hearing about some suicides, like because of this. Like I don't know. I personally I don't know exactly, but we have heard that in our complex, somebody did a suicide
Mm.
because he could not cope up with all these costs and could not afford his family, and that is very, very sad.
Mhm.
That is so sad to hear.
And he thinks probably that's the best way he can provide for his family is
It's
by
not the
taking
best
his life.
way.
Well,
Yeah,
of
it's not the
course it's
best
not the
way,
best way,
but
but you think
yeah,
is that what he's thinking,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like he feels
exactly,
stuck. He
exactly,
thinks
yeah,
that's
yeah.
my only
So
option. That's
that's like
rough.
it's not it's like to go through that option, like
Mhm.
think for like whoever does that, like commit suicide, is probably like I feel bad really for them, but I think they only see that option left to them, right?
Yeah.
And we gotta have like we should have like more options for them than just that one option.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times, I mean, we don't know people's stories, but a lot of times of what
Exactly.
you and I are
Yeah,
saying is when we're
that's
not
true.
talking, when we're not opening
Yeah,
up, when we're not asking for help, then we feel very limited. We only have coming down to one option, which is, something like taking his life. And hopefully we can continue to encourage people to talk, talk, talk. And the numbers in suicide for men are really, really high, really high. And I'm
hmm,
particularly focusing on that because it is Men's Mental Health Month, and there's lots of stuff out in the media. My good
yes,
friend Zach from Canadian Podcast, he does that Men Tell, where he encourages
hmm,
men to send videos of tips and things that they're doing so that more men can see that there's more men that look like them, talk like them, act like them, that are also experiencing mental health issues. And yet, the more we talk about it, we can manage it better.
that's true.
So talking is not the only thing, and it may not be the best
Yeah,
thing, but it is definitely a start if we can continue to encourage that taking our life is that's rough. I feel for his family. I feel for his kids. I feel for the people around him, and that's tragic.
Very young kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, Papa. So I'm going to ask you to do a call to action. So this is where I ask my guests, what is one thing, if there's only one thing that you can encourage our listeners to go and do or think about? And maybe we can focus on, well, actually, I'll let you decide I was going to say focus on men's mental health. If there's something, out there you can encourage men, immigrant men even out there to work on their mental health. Maybe you can focus on a call to action for that.
Actually, listening to a lot of your podcasts, like there's a lot of help out there now, right? And what I want to say is, if anybody have any any problem, having to deal with mental issues, let them know that you are not alone. You're not alone, right? Like there's a lot of help out there, and talk to somebody. Like do talk to somebody. Like I know it's like very difficult to talk to everybody, right? But there's always somebody in your life that you're close to. It could be your friend, it could be your wife, it could be your daughter, it could be anybody, right? And do not be just sit there and suffer or take it on your own that this is only happening to me. It happens to everybody. It doesn't happen to you. It doesn't happen to one person. It happens to everybody, and we need to then if you do something about it, and it may take some time, and you will come out of this, right? So this is what I want to say. Like communicate and seek help. Seek help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. Nothing wrong with that. We should not be ashamed of anything like that. Oh, I cannot handle this. We are human beings, right? Male or female, we are not built for that. Like that, we can handle anything. We're not robots, right?
Yeah.
So we are human beings, and anybody can have any kind of a problem, right? So talk to somebody. I know sometimes the counseling is expensive, but nothing is expensive than your life, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's for sure. And like for a lot of people in our community or in other like racialized communities, there are a lot of services that are coming out now for people of color so that you can feel more comfortable with a counselor that comes from your community, can speak your language, who you don't have to explain your whole story of, my culture, we do this or that. And people can help understand how to communicate better and handle these really big mental health issues. So I'm really grateful for a lot of people of color that are going to school to be in this mental health field, because this is how, that's another way to help educate our communities and help them grow. And so there are a lot of resources. People can reach out to anyone and everyone, and someone will know somewhere you can go to. So, well, thank you for coming on, Father Varinder.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it was really good having you on today. And I think for everyone listening too, like these conversations are door openers. If there's anything you want to contribute to, if you want to add to this conversation my father and I had today, you know where to find us. Otherwise, Papa, any last comments or anything before we sign off?
Well, I think that should be it. It's pretty good. And I don't think I was going to talk this long, but I think we touched a lot of issues, like a lot of things. Keep doing the good job. Keep bringing good guests like me.
Yeah, I love it.
So actually, I have to say one thing. Like, every guest you had is like, I haven't heard any podcast yet that I can say, oh, I don't want to listen to this one.
Oh, good.
Every guest you had to like, some input, a lot of like output like out there, and if you listen to it, you always find something that can help in with your life, right?
Oh, that's really good to hear.
Like I said, I have like learned lots from these podcasts, and I want to keep learning more. And
I appreciate
also,
that.
like probably one thing, like I want to like I think you asked me before that what thing I can do, like I want to start from myself, like I want to make a change myself, like so like start with from myself, that make sure that I do things that make me proud and make my family proud, and help somebody, right? So start from yourself, like start from your home, and educate and have that communication, right? Which is very, very important, right?
I agree.
That's
for
all.
Sure. Awesome. Really good info. Good feedback. That was a good conversation. So thank you so much for coming on, mister.
Thank you. Take care.